Amazing moment, little girl's heart-wrenching warning to the millionaire revealed a hidden truth. Laura stood at the back of the community hall, the air thick with discontent. A cacophony of voices filled her ears as she clutched her notebook, the crisp pages echoing with potential words. Her 12-year-old heart raced under the weight of their struggles, a striking contrast to the estate that loomed outside Mr. Thompson's monstrous castle, a stark reminder of the chasm between their lives. Her mother's frustration had drawn her here, yet now the lines of anger painted across Sarah's face filled Laura with unease. Why did it feel like their lives were measured in statistics? The room fell silent as Mr. Thompson bestowed his numbing indifference. He waved his hand dismissively at Sarah's desperate plea, as if the lives behind those words were mere numbers to be shelved. It struck Laura like lightning. Anger surged within her, filling her chest with indignation and a fierce desire to protect her mother. For a moment, she teetered on the precipice of fear and fury. Every eye turned to her, and her breath caught in her throat. Would she speak, or would she remain a shadow, hidden behind her mother's courage? Stop! Her voice broke the hush, startling even herself. You don't understand. It was raw, impassioned, the cry of a girl who felt the weight of unacknowledged struggle. She trembled, every gaze piercing through to expose her fear. Inside, a war raged. Was she being brave or foolish? She felt the heat of their scrutiny, and doubt seeped into her resolve. But what if her words could agitate the calm indifference that surrounded Mr. Thompson like a protective bubble? Her heart beat an uneven rhythm, swirling between desperation and determination. You can't just brush aside the pain people feel. You don't know. A lump formed in her throat, and she gritted her teeth against the swell of emotion. Before she could make sense of the chaos her words had unleashed, the room closed in, amplifying her uncertainty. She turned, meeting her mother's eyes filled with fear yet sparking with a flicker of pride. It anchored Laura, but outside the small safety of that moment, the threat of eviction hung like a noose. Weeks dragged by, each day blending into the next, heaviness enveloping their cramped home. Amid the despair, though, Laura found solace in painting, her world of color translating their struggles onto canvas, brushstrokes mimicking the beating heart of her frustrations and dreams. Yet, even as she expressed herself, angst gripped her insides. The art competition loomed like a lighthouse in the distance, promising an escape, a scholarship, everything she needed. But Mr. Thompson's looming image haunted her, tall as his estate, triggering a turmoil she wrestled with daily. Would she really consider his involvement in her dream? The conflict curdled in her stomach, accepting aid from the man who had abandoned empathy. Anguish marinated alongside aspiration. A life buoy dangled, but it was tethered to an anchor of resentment, tugging her spirit down. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she stood behind the canvas, brush trembling in hand, the weight of their struggles poured out, yet it brought nothing but more questions. Would she dare to paint the truth about their lives, the very pain she wanted to shield her mother from? The colors danced under her fingertips, each stroke a plea, a warning, but would it reach him? Could Mr. Thompson grasp the story behind her eyes? Tension tightened around her like a vice, the fear of failure threatening to spill over. In that moment, even amidst the strokes of her paint, her heart raced with an insatiable anticipation. Fate coiled between them, each decision capable of unraveling their disparate lives or weaving together a complex thread of human connection. Would her truth be enough to penetrate the layers of Mr. Thompson's indifference, or would it force her further away from the very hope she sought? Laura breathed deeply, her hands quaking above the canvas, realizing the question remained: could two disparate souls truly connect over the unexpected bond of honest expression? Or would her path splinter under the weight of her choices, leaving her lost where dreams once flourished? Laura's fingers glided over the canvas, wrestling with swirling emotions that clashed like storm clouds brewing overhead. Each brushstroke was an act of defiance, a testament not just to her struggle, but to the pain that lingered in every corner of their existence. The vibrant colors she chose felt like the chirps of sparrows, striving to be heard above a cacophony of indifference. As days turned into nights, the artwork became her refuge. In its chaotic beauty, Laura poured her frustrations and fears, sketching scenes of her mother's weary smile, the shadows of their cramped home, and the looming silhouette of Mr. Thompson's estate. Each image cultivated a deeper meaning, forcing her to question not only the world around her but also her own identity, but clarity eluded her. In the silence of the night, she replayed the meeting, Mr. Thompson's dismissive wave lingering in her thoughts. Why did his indifference cut so deeply? This question haunted her as she laid awake, grappling with feelings of resentment and a yearning for understanding. If she could tap into the well of emotion hidden beneath his aloof exterior, perhaps she could uncover the connection that felt so implausible. In the corridors of her mind, heartache collided with ambition, urging her to confront the reality of her situation. The art competition loomed closer now, a beacon of light and hope threaded with anxiety. The thought of sharing her art, her raw truth, filled her with dread yet ignited a flicker of purpose. If her brushes could speak, they might tell the story of countless lives worn thin by despair. Couldn't they also shed light on her dreams? One afternoon, a burst of inspiration seized her. The idea of creating a mural large enough to embody the shattered dreams of her small community and her fierce determination had taken root. As the colors mixed and merged on her palette, she envisioned the mural a vibrant sphere of connection. It would be a mirror, reflecting not only her struggles but those of her neighbors, illuminating the shared pain that Mr. Thompson deemed unworthy of acknowledgement. Stepping outside with her newly dedicated purpose, she stood before the blank wall that would soon transform. The space felt sacred, a blank canvas ready to vibrate with life, a place she could broadcast her truth and challenge the indifference that festered in the shadows. Intent surged through her veins, and she began sketching her vision, each line purposeful, echoing the whispers of her heart and the voices around her. But as she painted, familiar anxiety curled tight in her stomach. Would people appreciate the message behind her mural? Would Mr. Thompson find it ludicrous? And if he did, what would that mean for her dreams? The mural suggested more than redecorating a brick wall, it carried the weight of collective hopes and scattered criticisms. In those moments of creation, what felt tangible was the elemental power of vulnerability. The act of painting became therapeutic, and with every stroke she reminded herself that acceptance was not merely the goal, she needed authenticity far more than approval. Yet, this revelation sat uneasily. Would her truth be deemed valid by those she sought to connect with most? A confrontation loomed on the horizon, one that demanded not just bravery but a deeply rooted belief in her own worth. Laura battled the relentless nagging doubts wrestling for control in her mind. The mural would unveil her voice, but it left her torn between vulnerability and the fear of rejection. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Laura gazed at her progress, the mural coming to life but mirroring her inner turmoil. The stakes had never felt higher. This was the moment she had shifted toward a path to clarity or chaos. Time ticked away relentlessly, urging her to finalize her mural before the competition's deadline. But what would happen when Mr. Thompson encountered her unapologetic truth? The question lurked, murky but insistent, nudging her toward an encounter that promised to test her resolve and illuminate the threads of connection she desperately sought. Would this be the bridge she needed to cross? Or would it deepen the chasm she sought to mend? With a new sense of determination, Laura turned back to the canvas, ready to confront whatever came next. The truth held power, and she would wield it fiercely even against the tide of dispassionate wealth that threatened to wash her away. The light from the street lamp cast a pale glow over Laura's mural as she stepped back, taking in the vivid tapestry of emotions now splashed across the wall. Each color pulsed with intent, but doubt still clawed at her insides. Would her vision resonate or fall flat? The juxtaposition of her vivid palette against the drab environment felt like a declaration of war against indifference. Each stroke of her brush felt simultaneously liberating and suffocating, a fierce fight for validation, both self-imposed and rooted in the world around her. The mural encapsulated her neighborhood's struggle, yet beneath its surface lay a personal crypt of her fears. She examined the flourishing depiction of her mother's enduring smile, a reflection of their shared reality, yet inside she wrestled with a gnawing uncertainty. Each brushstroke seemed to echo a question: was she simply a girl tearing a hole in the fabric of apathy, or was she redefining her existence in ways that mattered? Hours turned into days as she poured everything into the mural. But as the deadline approached, Laura's mind spiraled into overdrive. Desperate for assurance, she sought out the local art group, a lively mix of hopeful dreamers and seasoned creators. Maybe their feedback could kindle a flicker of faith, casting light on her quavering self-belief. Arriving at the community center, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement and creativity. She introduced herself, feeling the warmth of acceptance wash over her. Yet, as she showcased her mural ideas, the scrutiny in their eyes pierced her resolve. Some nodded along, while others whispered curt remarks about her audacity. It stung. Did they perceive her as presumptuous, a girl aspiring to elevate her turbulence to an art form? She felt a compulsive urge to defend herself against their judgments, to prove that vulnerability could be a medium of strength. Why this mural? An older artist finally challenged. Are you painting for a response, or is it just personal expression? The question sliced through her defenses, leaving Laura momentarily speechless. Her motives felt both fluid and muddied. It was about sharing a part of herself, yet an unwelcome desire for approval lingered, tainting her authentic impulse. She took a deep breath, grounding herself. It's both. This is me stepping into my truth. I want people to see, to feel, and hopefully, to understand. Silence engulfed the room, seemingly stretching the distance between her and the gathered artists. Were they judging her sincerity or vibing with her vision? Laura's heart raced, the atmosphere electric with an unexpected shock of empathy. It began to sink in that what mattered most wasn't their acceptance, but her authenticity. With each heartbeat, she rediscovered the intentions weaving through her work, the connection she wanted to draw that mirrored the pain and beauty existing in their lives. As she walked away, the doubt still flickering in her mind, a spark ignited within her. The craving for connection morphed into an understanding that her voice had merit beyond the judgment of others. She returned to her mural, fervor guiding her hands anew, but still, shadows loomed. Mr. Thompson and the imagined confrontation began to gnaw at her resolve. What would he see when he looked upon her labor? Would he recognize the pain mirrored in her art, or would his indifference reign, overshadowing her triumph? The night sky cradled her thoughts, stars twinkling with unfulfilled promise. As she picked up her brush once more, with her final strokes, Laura understood that she was stepping into a realm of courage. Owning her truth meant embracing both the triumphs and the vulnerabilities. She was ready to evolve, to confront Mr. Thompson. His indifference could no longer dictate her worth. There, on the canvas, she framed the questions that had haunted her, now an invitation to exploration rather than despair. The resolution loomed like an approaching tide, one she could either ride or sink beneath. As she added intricate details, she felt the pull of a pivotal moment ahead. Would this mural redefine her battle against indifference, or would it squirrel away her voice in silence? Only time would reveal the outcome of confronting Mr. Thompson. The moment awaited, looming just past tomorrow's dawn. As dawn bathed the world in pastel hues, Laura stood before her mural, her heart a whirlwind of anticipation. Today was different. Today was the day she would face Mr. Thompson. The thought fueled her with both dread and exhilaration. This mural, this bold expression of her spirit, was not merely a tapestry of frustration and hope. It was a declaration of her existence, and soon it would be placed under the unforgiving gaze of the man whose indifference had haunted her thoughts. She took a moment to breathe deeply, grounding herself as she examined each detail of her work. The vibrant colors surged towards the ambient hum of the waking neighborhood. Birds chirped their morning hymns, oblivious to the storm of self-doubt raging inside her. What if he dismissed it? What if he deemed her art trivial or misguided? Yet within her doubt, a new understanding blossomed. Her mural was more than an appeal for validation. It was a dialogue, a confrontation of sorts, with indifferent attitudes and the existential void several individuals navigated daily. She had poured not just paint but her essence into this creation. She felt the atmosphere shift when she saw Mr. Thompson approach, his silhouette growing clearer as he walked. Clad in his tailored suit, he contrasted sharply with her riotous art. Her body tensed involuntarily, the judgment she feared loomed just a few steps away. "Laura," he greeted, eyes scanning the mural, unreadable beneath his designer sunglasses. "Mr. Thompson," she managed to say, her voice wavering slightly. His eyes narrowed as he moved closer to the mural, the distance between critical judgment and understanding seeming insurmountable. Laura's heart hammered in her chest, the clamor of doubt echoing in her mind. This was her moment, but it felt as if she teetered on the edge of a precipice. "What do you want people to see?" he asked, his tone neutral but with an edge of something sharper that gave her pause. This was no longer just about her. It was about everything that lay beneath the surface, the fragility of hope and the rawness of vulnerability. "I want them to see what it means to struggle and to persevere, to feel joy amidst despair," she said, her voice gaining strength. "I want us all to feel something, to not remain indifferent." He studied her, tilting his head slightly, and for a fleeting moment, Laura felt seen. Then he turned his gaze back to the mural, his expression inscrutable. "It's bold. Risky," he admitted, the words hanging in the air thick with unspoken judgment. "Your thoughts?" she ventured, anxiety coursing through her, a cocktail of anticipation. "Art is subjective," he replied slowly. "Some might find this overly emotional. How do you expect to engage an audience who might not relate?" Frustration bubbled in her stomach, battling against the vulnerability that had taken hold of her work. "Not everyone will understand, but that doesn't diminish the intent. It's about authenticity. About reaching someone," she retorted, feeling the heat of determination rise within her. His eyes remained distant, as if he represented the very apathy she fought against. There was an unsettling stillness as he took in her words. Would he recognize her value? Would he acknowledge that her struggle resonated beyond mere paint on a wall? In a heartbeat, Laura realized that this showdown was not just a test of her mural's worth, it was a crucible for her passion, her resolve. She expanded her thoughts further, driven by an urgency to be heard, to share this hidden truth lingering in the shadows of her experience. What if a piece of art does more than serve its eye appeal? She challenged, her voice firm. What if it sparks something, a conversation, a moment of connection? How can we ever know if we do not try? His piercing gaze met hers, and she sensed the tinge of surprise at her intensity. Perhaps this confrontation was not just with Mr. Thompson but a call to reclaim her story, to push beyond the confines of fear and into the light of understanding. As he opened his mouth to respond, the air crackled with anticipation, a cacophony of tension filling the space between them. Laura held her breath, bracing for whatever judgment or acknowledgement might come next. Had her courage resonated? Had she rendered him open to the vulnerability she had splashed across the canvas? In that moment, everything blurred, the mural behind her seeming to echo the weight of her words. She stood on the precipice of transformation, not just for herself, but perhaps for him as well. But she had to hold steady, the true revelation lay just beyond this uncertainty. Would Mr. Thompson join her in this confrontation of indifference, or would he retreat back into the safety of his detachment? The answer hung precariously in the balance, awaiting its moment of truth. Mr. Thompson paused, and for a moment, an eternity stretched between them. Laura could see the wheels turning in his mind, the struggle between maintaining his facade of detached professionalism and the urgency of her plea. She could almost hear the racing thoughts as he weighed her vulnerability against the weight of his expectations. Finally, he spoke, but the words were unexpected. "What you're expressing is real, Laura, but art isn't just about feelings. It's about impact, about sales, about relevance in a saturated market. Are you willing to adapt your vision for the sake of engagement?" His tone wasn't harsh, but it carried an underlying challenge that sent jolts of indignation through her core, her breath caught in her throat. Was this truly the understanding she sought? The disconnect between their perspectives felt like a chasm widening beneath her feet. "But if I dilute my voice, is it really my art anymore?" She pressed, heart racing. His expression softened slightly, a flicker of recognition there, but Laura noticed the unyielding wall he maintained. Did he even believe in the power of authenticity? You can exhibit authenticity while still appealing to a broader audience. I've built my career on understanding what people desire. Desire. That single word lit a fire inside her. Desire for what? A commodity? A fleeting amusement? Isn't the art about something much deeper than that? The intensity in her voice surprised herself, but she felt it catalyzing a change within her, a boldness she long sought to mar. Thompson blinked, caught off guard. There are few artists who can afford to exist purely on passion, Laura. The market demands a strategy. The dismissal dripped from his words, yet there was something revealing in his expression, a glimpse of the man behind the veneer. Her mind raced, questioning both his motivations and her own response. But what happens to the essence of the work if we manipulate it to fit a mold? The fierceness of her inquiry sharpened her clarity, igniting a truth she struggled to articulate. Isn't there value in the discomfort of vulnerability? That's where true connection lies. Discomfort doesn't sell, he replied, crossing his arms, but the slight furrow of his brow betrayed just a hint of internal conflict. As their verbal sparring continued, Laura's thoughts raced ahead. This was no longer just about the mural. This represented every moment she had felt small in the face of authority, every time society's expectations had stifled her voice. She had an opportunity to redefine not only her art but the trajectory of her life. And yet, she countered, voice steadier now, if my mural resonates with even a few, isn't that more meaningful than chasing trends? Isn't it worth something to provoke thought? A flicker of something approached a softening in Mr. Thompson's gaze. You're a fighter, I'll give you that, he admitted reluctantly, his tone carrying a hint of grudging respect. For the first time, Laura sensed the potential for a different dialogue. Tension crackled in the air, morphing from confrontation into something almost collaborative. He shifted his stance, leaning slightly closer to the mural, and she followed his gaze, recalling why she had created this piece in the first place. It was a reflection of her journey, an echo of the struggles around her that she fought against every day. Perhaps, he said slowly as if considering her point, there is merit in your approach. But how do you plan to make people care? How do you envision driving that conversation forward? The question struck her, a deep inquiry leading her into uncharted waters. The realization washed over her, dwelling solely on the internal struggle wouldn't be enough. She could no longer isolate her art from the world, she had to blend her voice with a strategy that could amplify her message. The prospect excited her, lighting a spark of creativity she hadn't fully acknowledged before. I think, she began, threading her thoughts carefully, it's about creating outreach workshops, community involvement, dialogues that accompany my art. Mr. Thompson nodded, intrigued. Building a platform, then. That's a step toward sustainability. You have a vision, but it can't exist in a vacuum. Laura could feel the dynamic shifting, a collaboration emerging from their contrasting visions. Would he mentor her in crafting the narrative around her mural? The anxiety slowly morphed into anticipation, the idea of expanding her horizons thrilling her. As the sun cast its final morning rays across her mural, illuminating its vibrant colors, Laura felt ready to embrace a new phase of her journey. The real test lay ahead, one that would challenge her motivations and guide her growth in unexpected directions. Mr. Thompson studied her more intently now, and there was a glimmer of possibility in his demeanor. What if this isn't just a mural, Laura? What if it's the beginning of an exploration beyond what you've imagined? Her heart raced at the potential that loomed ahead. What was possible if she took this leap? She contemplated her next move, poised to step off the edge into a world of exploration. But just as she prepared to respond, a thought loomed larger than before, every layer of her past colliding with an unknown future. Could she really wield her art to reshape not only herself but the world surrounding it? The question hung heavy in the air, teasing an exhilarating but uncertain road ahead. Laura took a deep breath, steeling herself to embrace the moment. The flickering possibility ignited a scorching urge to push through the barriers of self-doubt and scrutiny that had surrounded her artistic journey. She could no longer be a passive observer of her own narrative. It was time to take charge and let her voice weave itself into the very fabric of her community. "Mr. Thompson," she began, her voice now steady, "if I'm going to make any real impact, I need to break through these rigid boundaries. Art is an experience, a way to connect." The determination pulsated within her as she glanced at the mural once more. Each brushstroke had been a memory, a lesson, an act of defiance. "I want to create something that invites conversation. Something that encourages people to engage with what they see, feel, and question." A light glimmered in Mr. Thompson's eyes, suggesting that her renewed fervor was making waves beyond the surface. He leaned in, intrigued at this shift in her stance. "You're suggesting reaching out, not waiting for them to come. But how does that translate into substance? How do you make them care enough to engage deeply?" The edges of her heart raced at the challenge. "Workshops," she reiterated, excitement bubbling beneath her skin. "Art that reflects the stories of the people around me, layered with themes of resilience and vulnerability." Her mind turned, envisioning partnerships with local schools, inviting youth to express themselves through murals and designs. "We could share our narrative together, so my art isn't merely mine, it becomes theirs too." Utilizing vulnerability as strength, Mr. Thompson mused, his brow furrowed slightly in thought. "I see a possibly game-changing approach here, but your execution must be flawless. This isn't some whimsical hobby, you need to treat it like a full-fledged business plan." The skepticism in his tone pushed her further, fanning the flames of her resolve. "Then I'll strategize. I can gather metrics on community engagement, build a platform online, showcase these workshops, and even document the process." Her voice took on an almost fervent edge. "People connect through stories, and I want to show them that the act of creation can empower them just as it has empowered me." He nodded, taking in her enthusiasm, but Laura could feel her thoughts drift back to her essence as an artist. A flicker of doubt nudged her, a whisper questioning whether she still had the authenticity in her artistic backbone to make this shift. Yet, would I compromise my voice in pursuit of this broader engagement? Wouldn't that be backpedaling? "Your voice won't be lost, Laura," Mr. Thompson reassured as he gestured toward her mural. "In fact, it can amplify your impact. Every artist faces the challenge of remaining true to themselves while navigating the growing demands of their profession. Finding the balance will be your greatest task." A wave of determination washed over her. She needed to transform that insecurity into a catalyst for growth. If she could anchor herself firmly in her truth while extending her reach, she could pave a unique path. With a deep inhale, she accepted the challenge directed at her. "I'm ready to embrace that balance, to create a narrative that is personal yet collective, powerful yet inclusive." They exchanged a charged silence, understanding the enormity of what lay ahead. What did forging this new direction mean for her as an artist? Could she really stitch together her vulnerability with an entrepreneurial framework, crafting a path that didn't compromise who she was but rather celebrated every facet of her identity? The thought spiraled through her mind like the vibrant colors of the mural behind her. Each day ahead could be an articulation of her values and ideas, interwoven with stories that echoed through her society themes of struggle, resilience, hope. But as she brainstormed possibilities in her mind, a lingering question persisted, nagging at the edges of her confidence. What if, in her pursuit to reach others, she lost the very essence of the passion that had driven her artistry in the first place? The tension wrapped around her thoughts. Something had to give, but what? Before she could fully process that ultimatum, Mr. Thompson's phone buzzed insistently, jarring her out of her reverie. "We'll need to discuss this more thoroughly," he said, glancing at the screen. "Time is of the essence if we're to create something truly impactful." Laura felt her stomach tighten, a mixture of excitement and unease compounding her anxiety. They were standing at the precipice of an extraordinary journey, but what awaited her on the other side? Possibilities danced before her, yet the uncertainties loomed larger, casting shadows she had yet to fully confront. Could she command her narrative and keep her artistic integrity intact, or would the pursuit of engagement reshape her completely? With those unsettling queries hanging in the air like a tightrope, she steeled herself inwardly for the unknown that lay ahead. As the weight of uncertainty cocooned Laura, she stepped into action, determined not to let hesitation cripple her ambitions. She started jotting down ideas for the workshops, her fingers flying across the page as if propelled by an unseen force. With each stroke, she imagined the vibrant voices of her community, the stories they would share, and the connections they would forge through artistic expression. Laura envisioned transforming the empty walls around her into canvases echoing tales of resilience. But the exhilaration was paired with an unsettling thought: was she truly prepared for this leap? This wasn't just about creating art, it was about cultivating an experience that had the potential to change lives, including her own. Penetrate the layers of her fears. She envisioned each workshop and imagined the participants' faces, their expressions of wide-eyed curiosity, the laughter echoing through the air, the moments of vulnerability laid bare on paper. How could she ensure that her voice wouldn't drown amidst the chorus of others? With a resolve akin to a sculptor chiseling away stone to reveal the masterpiece within, Laura began to outline her approach. Who would she collaborate with? Which local artists shared her vision, her story? Would schools be open to embracing her passion, or was she risking rejection in pursuit of this multifaceted dream? These questions circled relentlessly in her mind, creating a tempest of excitement and fear. She knew she needed allies, kindred spirits who could amplify her message while grounding her artistry in authenticity. Driven by an impulse that verged on reckless, Laura reached out to local artists via social media, crafting a post that articulated her vision. "I'm looking for collaborators who believe in the power of art to reflect our stories and elevate our voices." Beneath her words lay a glimmer of hope intertwined with anxiety. What if no one responded? What if her dreams fell flat, echoing in the silence of indifference? Before she had a chance to second-guess her decision, she hit send. The rush of uncertainty flooded her as she realized she had opened a door she couldn't close easily. It put her in a vulnerable position, but that space was where transformation happened, wasn't it? Days passed with a mix of trepidation and anticipation. The digital silence weighed heavily upon her, yet she refused to retreat. In her mind, each passing hour was an opportunity for growth for both herself and the community. On the fourth day, a ping from her phone shattered the stillness. A message from Marissa, a local painter, erupted into her view. "I'd love to collaborate. Your vision speaks to me. Let us meet and brainstorm." A rush of relief cascaded through Laura. Someone else believed in this mission, this dream of weaving personal stories into the fabric of collective experience. Their meeting unfolded in a cozy cafe only a few blocks from her mural. A surge of creative energy crackled between them, lighting a fire beneath her aspirations. Marissa's insights resonated with Laura's ideas, curating a shared mission that felt both exhilaratingly new yet intimately familiar. But as they brainstormed, the stakes began to mount. Would their collaborative spirit resonate beyond their circle? What if they aimed too high, only to fail spectacularly? The thought gnawed at her. Yet, with Marissa alongside her, those fears seemed less daunting. "Let us start with a smaller piece, a community mural that tells the story of our journey together," Marissa suggested, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Laura's heart raced at the idea. It was daring, yet it anchored her to her core belief that art was about more than just self-expression. It was about connection. As their conversation unfolded, clarity began to etch itself onto the canvas of her anxiety. Each hesitation and doubt now served as a stepping stone towards deeper realization. But beneath the thrill, a darker undercurrent whispered, urging caution. What if this partnership eventually revealed fractures she hadn't considered? That would threaten both her vision and her voice. The clock ticked away, and as they finalized their plans, that unsettling thought lingered like a shadow. Would she flourish alongside Marissa, or would this collaboration expose her vulnerabilities in a way she couldn't control? With excitement coursing through her veins, she realized the magnitude of what lay ahead, a transformative journey defined not only by artistic expression but also by navigating the complexities of shared dreams and diverging paths. yet the impending possibilities loomed large, intertwining excitement with doubt. How would she reconcile these conflicting emotions? Laura was ready to confront whatever aftermath awaited her, but the journey was just beginning. As they wrapped up, a new sense of resolve fortified her, even as uncertainty danced at the periphery. What awaited them as they broke ground on their project, and how would this partnership challenge her sense of self? The answers loomed in the ether, waiting for her to seize them. Laura awoke the next morning with a mix of exhilaration and dread. The mural project loomed like a vast, open sea, with uncharted territory stretching before her. With Marissa's enthusiasm buoying her, she felt propelled forward but deeply aware that the journey would not be straightforward. As she moved through her morning routine, her mind raced with details about the mural colors, themes, and the diverse stories of the community she wanted to capture. Each thought generated excitement, yet a gnawing anxiety soon followed. For every vision of escape through creative expression, there rested lurking doubts. What if her vision wasn't compelling enough? What if the community couldn't relate to their narrative? After gathering her supplies, she headed out to meet Marissa again. They had agreed to meet at the mural's proposed location. The walls, once stark and lifeless, awaited their touch like a canvas hung in silence, yearning for color and meaning. As she approached the site, Laura found Marissa tracing delicate sketches on her notepad, her brow furrowed in concentration. The sight stirred a warmth within Laura. Here was a partner willing to plunge into the creative depths with her. But something deeper tugged at Laura's mind. She needed to assert her voice, not just operate as a supporting character in Marissa's artistic narrative. Can we explore the idea of featuring stories from people who feel unheard? Laura asked, her voice steady despite the tremor of uncertainty coursing beneath. Marissa looked up thoughtfully. Absolutely. But how do we capture that? We can't just paint, we need their voices integrated into our piece. Suddenly, Laura recalled her neighbor, an elderly woman named Clara, who had narrated her life experiences during casual chats in the hallway. Every tale was rich with struggle yet threaded with humor. Maybe Clara could shed light on unexpressed sentiments, and that could unlock paving the way for others in the community. Let us reach out to people like Clara, Laura proposed. If we can collect stories and weave them into our mural, we create a more immersive experience. The idea ignited something in Marissa. Yes. Let us set up a small meeting, an informal storytelling session where anyone can share their experiences related to resilience. Excitement surged through Laura. The project began to crystallize into something tangible. Yet, when she saw Marissa's eyes glinting with ambition, Laura hesitated. Was she slipping into the background again? It was vital for both their visions to harmoniously blend. Just to be clear, Laura interjected, I want to ensure that our voices remain equal throughout this. It's essential we allow space for each story, even as we create a cohesive piece. Marissa's nod was slow, contemplative. Absolutely. Let us make sure we continuously check in with each other. We can't lose sight of our collaboration's essence. With clarity forged through open dialogue, Laura felt unshackled from her earlier hesitations. They shared the vision now, a bridge connecting their joint ambitions and individual insights, but the potential for friction still simmered below the surface. Would her reservations try to resurface as they ventured deeper into the project? As they finalized their plan for the storytelling session, Laura felt her confidence swell, yet within that swell resided apprehension. Would she have the integrity to remain true to her vision while allowing others' voices to shine? The sun dipped low, casting long shadows that mirrored the depth of her introspection. Simultaneously, Laura sensed the monumental challenge before her, engaging an audience willing to bear their stories, sharing pain etched into their skin. Their ambitious mural was more than a collaboration, it was a crucible that would test her resolve and redefine her artistic identity. As they stepped back to admire the blank walls, Laura's mind raced, filled with the voices and stories waiting to be told. Would she rise to this occasion or allow her fears to stifle the creative force flowing around her? With those questions echoing within her, she realized the true test was not merely artistry but authenticity. The journey was only just taking shape, and with it came the growing need to confront the messiness of her own insecurities head-on. What awaited her as stories emerged? Would she emerge as a leader among voices, or would she become silenced in her quest? The answers stirred as the dusk deepened, pressing in close, inviting her to explore the depths of her own potential and the weight of shared expression. As the day of the storytelling session approached, Laura wrestled with a tumultuous mixture of excitement and trepidation. She had taken the first step, but now the momentum felt like an avalanche, tumbling down an uncertain path. Every instinct urged her to retreat, to shrink away from the raw vulnerability that public storytelling demanded. Yet a flicker of resolve propelled her forward. This was not just about her art, it was about genuine connection. In the days leading up to the session, Laura busily crafted promotional flyers, meticulously designing them to both reflect her artistic flair and beckon those untold stories. The effort distracted her from gnawing insecurities but didn't erase them. She told herself she was an artist, yet rarely had she truly put herself out there, inviting others to share in her vision. With each flyer hung, the fear of being judged loomed larger. Night after night, she found herself questioning her approach. What if no one showed up? What if the stories shared fell flat, unable to resonate with the intended depth she'd envisioned? Or worse, what if she lacked the ability to foster a space where people felt safe enough to speak? Getting lost in these thoughts, Laura turned to her sketchbook, her refuge. She began to draft ideas for the mural, drawing abstract shapes that represented connection, loneliness, and the myriad emotions that tethered people together despite their different lives. Each stroke of her pencil was a mix of clarity and doubt, mirroring her inner turmoil. Her hand shook slightly as she realized that each design was not just an image but an embodiment of her struggle to articulate something that felt overwhelmingly intangible. Finally, the day of the storytelling session dawned, bright and bustling. Laura stood at the proposed location, her heart drumming a rapid tempo as she arranged chairs beneath the shelter of a few trees, their verdant leaves whispering encouragement. The air was thick with anticipation and uncertainty as she replayed her introduction speech in her mind, anxiety twisting her stomach. Marissa arrived, her energy infectious as she helped arrange the seating. "You ready for this?" she asked, her smile fragile yet reassuring. "I guess so," Laura replied, unsure whether the tremor in her voice was excitement or dread. "What if no one wants to talk?" Marissa's brow furrowed. "Then we set the stage and share our stories. Just be honest and open. That's how we make this meaningful." The first few attendees trickled in, and Laura recognized faces from her building, a mix of curiosity and caution painted on theirs. Some took their seats, while others lingered as if unsure whether to brave the new vulnerability. As she watched them, a familiar warmth broke through the tension, the realization that they were all seekers, each searching for some affirmation, an echo of their own experiences in the voices of others. "We're here to share and listen," Laura began, her voice trembling but resolute. "This is a space where we can embrace our stories, whatever they may be." Gradually, voices emerged. Clara shared a tale of resilience during tough times, each word woven seamlessly with charming humor, echoing through the gathering. Laura felt the weight of her earlier fears lift for every story shared. Connection blossomed, and in that shared vulnerability, the mural's potential began to pulse with life. Yet, deep down, Laura sensed a quiet desperation to voice her own story. How could she lead this endeavor while holding back her innermost struggles? The moment approached when she would need to expose her own vulnerabilities, risking the very insecurities she had tried to keep at bay. The sun dipped lower as the session unfolded, illuminating the raw interactions among storytellers. But as she prepared to share, doubts flooded back in, threatening to smother her newfound courage. What if her voice faltered? What if she revealed too much? In that moment, she chose vulnerability as a strength rather than a weakness. She stepped forward, heart racing and throat tight, ready to confront the part of herself that feared rejection amid the raw honesty of shared expression. As the storytelling session continued, she felt the threads of connection tightening around her, binding her insecurities to the core of what it meant to be part of a community, even if it was just two people at a time. With every word another storyteller spoke, Laura confronted a profound truth: her greatest personal transformation lay in the courage to share her own tale. Would she be able to push past her fears and claim her voice among the rest, or would she fade silently back into the shadows? The weight of her choices loomed large as she prepared to step into the moment that would define her path ahead. How would she navigate the complexities of her emotions and the narratives that peppered her identity? The answers shimmered just beyond her reach, begging her to dive deep into the reservoir of her heart. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the storytelling session wrapped up, leaving Laura bathed in the soft glow of shared experiences. She had introduced the space, generated warmth, and witnessed firsthand the beauty of vulnerability unfolding among neighbors. But as the final voices faded, an undeniable urge pressed against her chest. She knew it was her turn to step into the fore, to tether her fears to the authenticity she championed. With each hesitation, memories of her battles with Mr. Thompson's indifference crowded her mind, his dismissive wave, the weight of his wealth overshadowing their voices. But now, standing before her neighbors, Laura felt a firm wave of purpose surge within. They had come to share their truths. Why should she retreat to the shadows of her insecurities? "Can I share something too?" she asked, her voice a mere whisper at first, but as she spoke, a newfound strength anchored her. The nodding heads and supportive smiles ignited her resolve. As she recounted her journey, the emotions, the struggles, the random acts of kindness from her community, her voice took on a life of its own. The fear that once gripped her began to dissolve, ebbing away with every word that burst forth from her heart. "I don't want anyone to feel invisible," she declared, vulnerability mingling with ferocity. "I've felt it too, lost in a world that dismisses the lives behind statistics. But here, we're not just numbers. We have voices. We can create art that tells our story, that connects us." The air thickened with intensity, and she saw recognition sparking in the eyes of her listeners. Her truth, once a source of anxiety, transformed into a beacon. She wasn't merely revealing her fears, she was forging a connection with each person gathered. As she paused for breath, she realized the profound shift within her. This was growth. This was authenticity. Marissa's encouraging nod fueled Laura's fire. "When I decided to paint, I realized I wasn't just expressing myself, I was building a bridge between me and all of you. This mural isn't just mine, it's ours. And together, we will channel our experiences into something transformative." A tide of applause rolled through the crowd as her declaration hung in the air. In that moment, Laura felt the weight of her struggles metamorphose into something magnificent. A flame of connection ignited among them all. The mural's potential shimmered with new life, amplifying the voices she had once feared to join. Days turned into weeks, and as the community mural began to take shape, Laura felt a rush of unity with her neighbors. Drawings burst forth, teeth bearing witness to shared triumphs and sorrows crafted under her careful guidance. The cathartic act of creation resonated throughout the community, transforming not just a wall but the bonds that encircled Laura and those around her. Soon after the mural's unveiling, the local gallery approached, eager to showcase their work. In an unexpected twist, Mr. Thompson, captivated by the vibrant display, attended as well. Standing beneath the sprawling colors that sang of vulnerability and resilience, Laura felt the familiar tension return. But now, rather than fear, she felt a steady sense of purpose. "Laura," he said slowly, eyes scanning the intricate details round the mural's edges. "This is impressive." His voice held a tone she hadn't expected. "You've opened a dialogue, a necessary conversation." A sense of satisfaction surged through Laura. The recognition, once sought with desperation, flowed in abundance like the paint on her canvas, now layered with authenticity. "Art can be a powerful catalyst for connection," she replied evenly. "With collaboration and voice, we can invoke change beyond our walls." The small crowd that gathered around murmured in agreement, shared support shifting through the air like strands of paint connecting hearts. Months later, Laura sat at her easel reflecting on the transformation she had undergone. She felt grounded, a creator, a leader, someone whose voice was no longer entangled in the fear of being disregarded. The mural served as a foundational piece of her identity and values, reflecting her journey toward authenticity, through the act of inviting others into her vulnerability, Laura had forged not just art, but a community, transcending the indifference that had once eclipsed her dreams. Solid confidence and recognized competence grounded her in knowing she could craft narratives that mattered, fulfilling a promise she made to herself and to those who stood with her. And as the light of the new dawn slipped through her window, illuminating the colors of her mural, her heart brimmed with pride, an artist empowered to wield her truth unapologetically. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now, because this is the moment to stand with creators sharing their truths. Don't wait even one more second to share.